What's up, guys? Coming in and talk to you about our top 10 DC villains.
Woo, the bad guys.
So you've asked for it, and here it is, finally.
We had a lot going on though. He was on vacation.
Yeah, that's
Took off to the beach.
but we're back. So you want to start with your number 10?
Yeah, I guess I can start with my number 10. Number 10 on my list would be someone I see potential in, as opposed to someone who has like these amazing stories written about them at this point. But Black Mask. He's a
Black Mask.
Underworld figure in the Batman comics, and I just see a lot of potential in the character.
He's had a lot done with him lately with Red Hood and Damian.
Well, and so when Red Hood came back, he was taking out Black Mask's men and stuff. Like they were sort of. So that's been going on for 15 years, I guess. But I like those characters that kind of work behind the scenes and then show up and they're like, yeah, it was me all along, kind of thing. And they played that well in some of the cartoons and stuff. And again, I like the look with the Black Mask.
Justice?
I can't remember if he's in Young Justice.
I feel like he was.
I feel like he was in the Batman show that came out after Batman Animated finished, and while Justice League was still going on. And a very Japanese manga kind of influence as far as the look goes. But overall, I just think the character is interesting. I know he doesn't really have any powers, but the look is cool. His positioning as a kingpin of crime, so to speak, is really interesting to me. So that's why I dig him. So he's at 10 because he hasn't really done a whole lot. I mean, his big claim to fame was having killed Stephanie. So.
All right, my number 10 is Darkseid. I really like Darkseid. He's lower on this list because I really like the guys that are above him a lot more. But I just like the idea of the big villain that's out there in the universe, and he's plotting to overthrow everything. And he's it's basically like Thanos, but better.
That's right.
And or more, maybe you should say Thanos is like him, since Thanos was second.
Right.
And
because the Thanos originally was going to look like Metron, but they changed that at the last second.
So before the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos Darkseid was out there trying to find an anti-life equation. And
he'd been around rocking and rolling at a top tier level longer than Thanos.
Created by Jack Kirby, and just the idea of him like ruling like his own planet, like Apocalypse, and when you like study some of that, it's just so evil, and you're just like, man, this dude is crazy.
Yeah.
And
they did an amazing job on the Superman cartoon, the way Superman fought him, beat him, had him dead to rights, and his slaves came along and venerated him in a sense. He hasn't seen that, so I'm spoiler alert. But
he shows up in Justice League Unlimited.
That's true, and it's amazing.
And it's really great.
Oh, that last episode where Superman and he are fighting, he's like, "You can take it, big man," and then he just knocks him all across Metropolis or whatever.
Yeah, I like that. He's like, normally I fight people who can't take it, but you can actually take my punch. So here it goes. And you're fighting Superman on his home world?
Yeah.
No, but I like Darkseid. He's very methodical. He's basically a king, and he rules with an iron fist, and he's just unstoppable. And I really think that's really cool. So.
All right. Well, my number 9 is the tie between Darkseid and Mark Hamill's Joker. So I'll get into that in just a second. I'm just going to piggyback on his because my number 9 is Darkseid as well. But the Great Darkness saga in the Legion of Superheroes, he takes over the universe, and it's amazing. And that is like the first time he was like this universe level threat, and it's set in 1,000 years in the future. So I'm gonna have to get him to read that at some point because it is it is amazing comic book stuff. Anyway, and then to follow up on that, they built him as this great sort of manipulator from the background in the Legends crossover that happened after the Crisis. So John Byrne wrote him as being this sort of master manipulator. But not only is he a master manipulator, but he can stand there and, like we said, he can take Superman's punches and things like that. And he is like this Omega level threat that is always there. And it's really cool. Sort of the mythology that Jack Kirby built into the New Gods and Darkseid in particular. So he is the alpha threat, I would argue, in the DC universe, kind of like Thanos right now in the Marvel universe. But so hopefully they get to build to him, and the payoff is worth it in the movies. The guy that I tied with on this one is Mark Hamill's Joker. There is not another Joker that will ever come anywhere near touching Mark Hamill's version of the Joker. That's all I'm going to say. Mark Hamill is the Joker. It's creepy to watch him do the Joker voice when he's not like a cartoon character, because you're like, oh my God, he could totally be a serial killer. And I might laugh at him in real life. And there's a part of me that like really hates that idea. But no, Mark Hamill Joker is spot on perfect. So
he's great. So all right. So my number 9 is Lex Luthor. So I have a lot of qualifiers on my villains. So my favorite part about Lex Luthor is that he's a cold-hearted manipulator. He's always behind the scenes, but he always holds all the cards. What I like about him is that even though he doesn't have any superpowers, he can take on Superman without any problem.
Right.
And I think the problem with Lex Luthor in a lot of modern writings is that they try to make him as powerful as Superman.
Right, physically as powerful.
So they've given him the suit, which I think makes sense to some extent.
Right.
But
it harkens back to the 70s and stuff like that, and that's one of the few things they've done that I don't mind about the character.
But I don't think he needs the suit. And
right.
I think similar. So when as an example, Batman, when he's given a Green Lantern ring, he's like, this is just going to slow me down. I don't need this. I think similarly, Lex Luthor is like, I don't need this suit. It's going to slow me down. Similarly, because he doesn't need the super strength to beat Superman. I think that's just lazy writing. What he needs is his brain, because he's so smart and he's such a strategist that he can outsmart Superman every time. And so whereas the normal villains for Superman have to Superman has to grow stronger and overpower them. Lex Luthor, doesn't matter how strong Superman is, he can't overpower him because it's all in the mind. It's all a chess game. So Superman has to learn to outwit Lex Luthor, which I love, and I feel like it's underplayed a lot in his character.
Yeah.
So
the thing that I like about Lex, since he's talking about him, is specifically it's not so much that Superman's not smart. It's that Lex Luthor doesn't play by the same set of rules that Superman does. And he's like, screw your rules. I'm Lex Luthor. I'll do what I want. In his first appearance in the Man of Steel miniseries, he literally tried to hire Superman. He's like, come work for me. And he did it with like a straight face.
Yeah.
And then the enmity between the two really cranked up to a fever pitch when Superman's like, you can't buy me, and Lex Luthor's looking at him like, then I'll destroy you. You mentioned, I want to say it was you mentioned in the Justice League draft video that Superman's weakness, that sort of thing, is civilians, and Lex Luthor knows that.
You're right, and Lex Luthor's not
right.
He's not afraid to play it. Actually, I know everybody hated Batman vs. Superman, and there's a lot of good reasons to not like the movie. I enjoyed parts of it. The only time that I felt like he actually felt like Lex Luthor is when he's out on the helipad and has Lex or Superman land right in front of him, and like Lex knows like if this guy punched me, I'm dead.
Right.
Like it's that simple. But he's not afraid because he's got all the cards.
Right.
He knows that Superman can't punch him because if Superman did, his mom would die, and that's how Lex Luthor works. He's so smart that he holds all the cards so that he can stand face to face with Superman, and Superman can't touch him.
Right.
And that's how Lex Luthor works, and I think it is brilliant. It's just a brilliant idea, and it's the perfect villain for Superman. You say like the Joker is the perfect villain for Batman. Lex Luthor is the perfect villain for Superman, because Superman usually punches his way out of situations, but with Lex Luthor, his strength is his weakness.
Right.
And so oftentimes Lex Luthor has him in a way that Superman ends up having to work for Lex Luthor, or
work together.
Right, sort of, but because Lex Luthor's holding the cards hostage that Superman needs. So just really great villain. I really like that aspect of the character.
And as far as that goes, I think that again the Justice League cartoon and the Superman cartoon from the 90s do an excellent job sort of capturing both aspects of that. Because in the Superman cartoon show, he's sort of the Lex that we were just describing, where he is the manipulator. He is keeping his hands proverbially clean, but in the Justice League show, he finally like turns a corner and he's like, all right, well, I'm going to put the armor on. I'm tired of him, ruining my plans. They've got me dead to rights now. And so he puts the armor on in a desperate, attempt to avoid being brought to justice. So that makes sense.
I think he's the perfect Legion of Doom leader.
Yeah.
Because everybody else rules by force, but Lex rules through actual power.
Right.
So like, he's paying them off, or he, has something against them that makes them want to work for him.
Right.
And that's really the only way you get villains to stay loyal. Whereas, as soon as Lex Luthor is not in charge, everything falls apart because people don't like the guy in the lead, and they have no reason to fight with him. Yeah. So, anyways, that's
my number 8. And I'm putting teams on here because it's hard for me to pick just one character. But the Fatal Five, they are a legion of superhero villains. So you got the Emerald Empress, Mano, the Persuader, Validus, and I'm blanking on the 5th person.
Loser got something.
Anyway, so I thought they were a really cool group. They usually they've had different people in the group at various points, so that's why I'm blanking. Anyway, I just love the way that those 5 characters would line up against and fight against the Legion of Superheroes. I thought Emerald Empress was Tharok. There you go. I was confusing him and Mano. See, I know.
Thank God for Google.
That's right. Anyway, I just think they're an interesting group. I really like the Emerald Empress. I think she was the most powerful. And the
is she the one with the floating eye?
Yeah.
She's kind of cool.
Yeah. My favorite storyline with her was the Legion storyline in I want to say it was Volume 3. Who is Censor Girl? And so Emerald Empress and the Fatal Five are sort of the main antagonists during that storyline, with the big reveal of who Censor Girl was. So anyway, it hit me at the right time in my life. I just thought it was really cool. Emerald Empress seemed super powerful, and yet Censor Girl was able to hang with her. And there were hints that she was a resurrected Supergirl. But anyway, and that was right after Crisis. So it was good stuff. It was really good stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you, we had a hard time coming up with this list. Harder than usual. So superheroes, it's obvious who we like.
Right.
We just got to order them. The villains, like, I'm not sure that there's a villain I don't like.
Yeah.
But I like the villains only usually because of who they're fighting.
Right.
So you'll find that a lot of my villains are villains of my favorite characters,
Right.
and something like that. So number 8, Eobard Thawne. So I know he's traditionally a Barry.
Zoom, zoom.
Reverse Flash. I mean, there's nothing more classic than Reverse Flash. Reverse Flash for the Flash universe.
He is the mirror of the hero, right?
And so he has been around for a long time in the comics, and I just really like that for Barry. He had to learn to go to beat somebody who was better than he was,
right.
Which is great for the character.
Yeah, right. Good character development, and he killed Flash's wife.
And yeah, and so
not his mama. That ain't happening.
What's really crazy is how evil Eobard Thawne is.
Yeah.
And so every time he's around, like something bad's going down.
Right. He's likely to put his hand into somebody's head, and
because he kills people all the time.
Yeah.
Some of these other villains, like they might kill random passerbys. Eobard Thawne
or even their henchmen. Like they'll murk their own henchmen. But
right. Eobard Thawne doesn't seem to care. Like he could kill anybody. It's just like he's just this crazy force that's out there, and when he shows up, you're just like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So like he was on Legion of the Legends of Tomorrow, and I thought like I was like, dude, there's no way anybody's gonna beat this guy because, I mean he's a Flash, and before he could do anything before anybody could ever know. Like he could just kill them all without. And so the only reason they're not all dead is because he just didn't choose to kill them. And it's just like, dude, that's crazy. But the Flash is really the only one that can keep up with him. And of course, Flash has anger about him killing people in his past, and
like his mom,
right? And so.
I don't mind that for the TV show. It bothers me because it led to the crap we got right now. But we'll talk about that later.
Anyway, so that's why I like Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, and I think he's just really just such a deadly threat. It's really cool, I think, for the characters, and even Wally spawned him, and then Wally actually got faster than he did.
That's right.
And that helped him beat him as well. So, but I really like the character just because of how evil and powerful he is.
Yeah. So my number 7 is another team. It's the Fearsome Five. So I like to think of them as Gizmo, Shimmer, Mammoth, the White Witch, and Simon. Just one of the earliest Titans comics I read was them fighting against the Titans. Neutron, which like this, it's some dude in a suit who has like nuclear powers or whatever. No, shut up. Anyway, he was a former Superman villain who was like, I can't beat Superman, so I'm leaving Metropolis, and somehow he ends up with the Fearsome Five. They fight the Titans. It's good stuff. Cyborg's going through another instance of trying to become human, and it doesn't work out well for him. And I just remember it as being a really awesome story. And then they've shown up here and there throughout the years, plaguing the Outsiders, which was made up of former Teen Titans as well as some newer characters. They've fought the Titans again more recently in the Rebirth Titans run. About issue 8 or so, which has a beautiful cover, if that's the one I'm thinking of, with them focused on there. So just really interesting team of villains. You've got your super strong guy, you've got your witch character, you've got your tech guy, you've got your telepathy guy, you've got the
that's the one with what's his name?
Simon. Yeah. And then you got the you made me forget. Shimmer, so she's got like the distance with the energy powers, and so you have all your needs met in that team. and they always plague the Titans, and I love the Titans. So
Yeah.
can't go wrong there, right?
So
So that's my number 7.
I really like Simon as well.
Yeah.
That's one reason I like that team. She's always fighting against either Raven or Lilith or Miss Martian.
Right.
I always enjoy that. Anyways, all right. 7 is Trigon. I really like Trigon. Another Teen Titan villain.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Titans forever.
He's like the dark side of the Teen Titans.
Yes.
And
always
so
there.
Raven's one of my favorite characters of all time, and I like that her background, that he's her father, and it's similar to my enjoyment of Darkseid. There's this massive threat out there that is like supremely evil, that is constantly trying to get in, and I feel like for Raven, it really gives kind of an insight to maybe like our own battle with evil. Like there's this evil within us that's always trying to get out, and we have to constantly put it at bay. And Trigon is that evil. He's basically the Satan of the DC universe, in a sense. But he's from this other dimension,
notwithstanding Neuron,
trying to get in and break the wall, and Raven is his way in.
Right.
And that always makes really interesting stories for the Titans, who really are powerless compared to him, but somehow always manage to beat him.
Yeah.
And I really like that. His appearance is pretty crazy.
He's a giant with 4 to 6 eyes, depending on the little antlers.
Yeah. Massive.
Red skin.
Might have 4 arms.
No, just the 2 arms.
2.
Yeah.
So I
have an action figure of him. It's missing a leg, but I have an action.
I think he's pretty awesome. He's a great Teen Titan villain.
Yeah.
I really enjoy any story with him.
Yeah, I love the way that they portrayed him in the cartoon show Teen Titans. They did a really excellent job conveying that dynamic with Raven, as well as the Teen Titans being all but helpless to beat him, and still somehow they managed to win in the end. Right. So I thought that was really cool. So, you good? Number 6 on my list is Starro. And if you're like, who the heck is Starro?
Such a classic.
He was there at the Justice League's first appearance. So he sends out he's like this alien, and he sends out these star spores to control people. So the reason I like him is it leads to the Justice League fighting itself.
Or the Green Lantern Corps.
Or the Green Lantern Corps.
Which is one reason I like him.
I don't know, there's just something about it. I like it when the heroes end up fighting each other. My favorite Starro storyline is from the Giffen DeMatteis run in Justice League. So it was particularly in the Justice League Europe series, and things were looking hopeless for Captain Atom, and he thought, I'll get the Justice League America team to come help us. But then Martian Manhunter shows up, and he's got a Starro stuck to his head, and it's really awesome because you're like, oh snap, we're in trouble now. And the least likely person to be able to affect a change in the battle is the one who ends up doing so and saving the day. It's really cool, and it includes some polarity because that's just that Justice League run. He's gonna find out. I got him to get that number 4 with Booster Gold fighting the Royal Flush Gang. I promise you, when he reads that, his life will be changed. So,
yeah, I like Starro too. I kind of like the idea of him, and I really like him.
It's just like a goofy character outside. Like when you just sit and talk, it's a giant starfish, like that poops out other little starfish. Like it just sounds ridiculous. But when it's conveyed well, you're like, this is why I like comic books, because something this weird comes across being, somewhat threatening.
Right. I like that he's a Green Lantern villain.
Yeah.
I like that about him. All right, so number 6, my Mr. Mxyzptlk.
Hey, good job! Woohoo!
Oh,
I had to write out the phonetic spelling of that so that he could.
That's what I needed. So I really love the character, mostly because he's goofy.
He's so goofy.
He's so funny. I like Batmite as well.
Oh yes.
And I just like that they're here to just have fun, and so he's not evil. He's just
well, depending on who you read, but ultimately,
Right.
I would agree he's a prankster.
like
He's a jokester. He's there just to be ridiculous.
But there's literally nothing that anybody can do. Like
I've got to lend him my Superman animated series because his appearances on that show are brilliant. His first appearance is so funny, the way that Superman sort of like undermines him and that sort of thing, and then when Bizarro is there, like he tricks Bizarro, and part of his punishment is to hang out with Bizarro. At the end, it's so great. It's so great.
What I like about him is really, well, I mean, he's such a thorn in Superman's side,
right?
Because Superman's generally pretty serious. Like he wants to go save the day. Pillick wants to go around and make fun of
Right.
what Superman's doing. So he'll like change all the circumstances, and Superman's like, I got to get this done, and he's like, no, let's do this first. Or you could do it like this, and he'll like snap his fingers, and suddenly everything's super weird and silly. It's really funny.
Yeah.
And of course the way to defeat him is to get him to say his name backwards.
Right.
It's just hilarious.
Which is very Rumpelstiltskinish.
So I really like the character. He's very lighthearted, and he could also be a villain to the villains, and
right.
Just so him and Batman, I like both of them.
Yeah, I forget what issue it was, but so Superman died in the 90s in Superman number 75, and I can't remember if it was Superman 150 or Superman 775, but Mr. Mxyzptlk sort of takes on the role of Superman, and he fights Doomsday, and he dies. Spoiler alert.
There's a couple issues in Tomasi Gleason run where
oh right, I forgot
where he
that.
busts out of the prison that
Jor-El
had
Jor-El.
Jor-El had him in, and then he just goes after Superman because he's mad that Superman never came to save him.
Right.
And Superman's like, I didn't know you were in prison.
I didn't even know you.
It's a weird thing.
Dynamic.
And yeah, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. It also ties over with Action Comics, I think.
Yeah.
4 issues there,
So such a great character. Go watch those episodes with him on the Superman animated show. It'll be worth the hour. I think there was like 3 or 4 episodes, so about the hour you'd spend on it.
All
My
right,
number 5.
Top 5.
Deathstroke. And I could go either way. I could call him an anti-hero, or I could call him a villain. I think he'll fit on this list either way. But dude, he's just so awesome. Like, he's peak level human. He's like Captain America if he decided to be a bad guy. What are you gonna do to stop him? And by that I mean not this Hydra crap that Marvel did a year or so ago. I'm talking about like if Captain America like totally was like, screw this, I hate you guys, I'm gonna take over the world. Hail Captain America! I mean, what are we gonna do to stop him? But no, Deathstroke. He is the perpetual thorn in the Titan side. And I'm not gonna say a whole lot here because I'm sure he'll probably get talked about again at some point in the future. Spoiler alert. No, but seriously, just such a great character. He's got added strength. He's able to use a greater percentage of his brain than normal humans. I know that's a story thing, but it's still cool to me. So he's heightened in senses and reflexes and everything. He is peak level human.
Like Batman.
But enhanced.
But stronger than Batman.
Right.
Which always I think is interesting when he fights Batman too,
Yeah.
because
I saw pics for.
It's very difficult for him, but he's gotta do it.
Yeah, I saw pics for the costume they had for the upcoming movie, but I don't know if they're gonna use that anymore. But dude looked awesome. I'm like, let's do this. Like that. Let's go. Like that looked really cool to me. So.
But I would always just send hot girl in, she'd take him out.
Yeah, except he'd screw her the wings. But Deathstroke, you want some good reading on him? His series from the '90s was pretty good. Like there was like a 3-issue series where he was hanging out in Gotham and was, messing around with Batman, and he was on the anti-hero side of things at that point, even leading the Titans alongside Dick Grayson for a hot minute there. It was good. And if you really want a good story, though, read the trial of Deathstroke in the latter 50s of the Tales of the Teen Titans. He and Garfield Logan, Changeling, Beast Boy, whatever you want to call him, they sit down and have a heart-to-heart after Garfield Logan tries to kill him for what he did with Tara. Yeah, I need to lend you those. It's good reading. So,
all right, number 5, Brain and Mala. I love this pair. Every time they show up in comics, I'm excited. I love the friendship that the two of them have, and just how, if I remember right, Brain gave Mala his intelligence.
Yeah.
And then it started off, I think Mala was his minion, but then eventually they just became best friends. And I love that.
Hold on. Spoiler alert. Different writers imply that there's a deeper relationship than just friends. So.
No, I ignore that.
Right, because it's really weird.
It's really weird. I love, like, Mala's a gorilla, and he
has a machine gun,
and he speaks with a French accent, which all of those are just so weird paired together, but it's hilarious.
Right, totally fit with the Doom Patrol.
And then the Brain reminds me of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle villain. And
I can see that.
And he's just in a box and drives around, and really his only power is that he can think really well and strategize, and everybody else generally does all the work. Yes, he's just a brain in a box, and every time they get in trouble, like Mala will scoop him up under his arm and they'll run off. And just really, really fun. I really like the characters, and they're always, they're really close friends. However you want to put it, like, they're really close. I really love that there's some villains out there that actually care about each other.
Right.
And it's nice to see that these two, they've just been working together for so long that they've just become really close. And it is weird. Some people have made them lovers, but I feel like there's a deeper relationship than that they're just real close friends and brothers, the Brotherhood of Evil, and that they really care because they've been together for so long, that they really care for each other. And I really love that. The two are great in my mind. Just a great pair. Probably my favorite duo of villains, and just a lot of fun. Of course, they're a Teen Titan villain, because a lot of my favorites are Titan villains. But I didn't really like any of the Brotherhood of Evil stories, because they're like a mini Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
And
they're really cool. Like, I hate DC hasn't done more with them as a team.
Brain and Mala tend to not like to be with everybody else. They just kind of do their own thing, and so they attract anybody who doesn't want to be with the main villains, and they do their own thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I like the Brain and Mala. They're number 5.
Anyway, I was trying to look into it because at one point I thought the Brain was Adolf Hitler's brain. Turns out they're not going with that anymore. So I don't know. Maybe I read that wrong somewhere. Thought I read that wrong. Oh well. But that moves me on to numero quattro, Dr. Polaris. And you're like, who's that?
He's the magnetism guy.
He's the magnetism guy. That's right. He's a
DC's answer to Magneto.
Except this guy is so much more interesting than Magneto. If for no other reason he belongs to DC. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead.
He's whacked out in the head. He's got multiple personalities, and one of them's evil. And I loved him in the 80s Green Lantern stuff, where he looked like he had a tuning fork on his head. You'll see that appearance of him in the Justice League cartoon show. And then when they revamped his costume and made it much more purpley, because apparently purple is the color of magnetism. I don't know why.
Reminds me of Galactus.
Yes, his costume can remind you of a miniature Galactus. Anyway, there was something about the character. I just loved him turning up and fighting Kyle Rayner. And there's one issue I've got where it's Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, teaming up with the Ray, and they're fighting him in Japan. There's another amazing series that I've got to get him to get on. It's a 3-issue story called Three of a Kind. Kyle, Wally, and Connor Kent, or not Kent, Hawk, decide to go on a cruise together, just to hang out. And turns out there's some bad guys on board the ship.
Of course.
And it's just such a great story.
That sounds like a fun story.
Yeah, so I've got like a couple of those that are like repeat issues, so I'll be passing those on. But I've got to help you find the third part of it so that you can enjoy the whole story before I try to even bother you with that. But it's such a great storyline. So if you want a good one, read either of those two that I mentioned. Those are both excellent. Plus, he played the Ray. They were related somehow. So
he shows up a couple times in Green Lanterns in the current run. At the beginning, I think.
Did they treat him seriously, or was he more of a joke? Okay. Because a lot of times they act like he's a joke, which is fine. But at some point, if you want him to continue to be a recurring villain, you've got to treat him seriously, even if he's deranged.
What's her name? Cruz was trying to save him.
Oh, nice.
That was pretty interesting. So.
Yeah.
All right, number 4, Harley Quinn. So I really like Harley Quinn. I don't care for the Psycho Harley Quinn that we have now. I really like the calm, silly one that we got from the animated series.
That's right, Hood.
I mean, she's a psycho, but she's very funny. I don't mind her getting dark as well. If you saw my Heroes in Crisis review, I really liked her in that.
So creepy watching her sing, dude. Like
it
she's
is
hacking away.
Right, and that's
fitting.
Beautiful Harley Quinn. I feel like the difference with her and the Joker is that she's much more emotional and much more personal.
She's not quite as far gone as he is.
Right, and so she almost feels like she could turn back to being good sometimes. Because she has a heart. She still cares about people to some extent.
But here's the problem. DC wants to straddle that line with her character, though, because they're like, if we move her away from being what she's always been, no one will care about the character. And yet, if we don't move her, we can't keep pushing her because she's psychotic.
Yeah.
And we don't want to, advocate for psychotic people acting psychotically, and so that's a razor thin line. It'd be like if they tried to turn Joker legit or something.
Yeah. So if you want the perfect Harley Quinn, go look at the Batman animated series. It's perfect. She's silly, she's goofy, but she also is okay with crushing people with a hammer.
It was so funny, I can picture her popping up behind somebody and smacking them with their mallet and going.
I thought she was good in the Suicide Squad too.
The movie?
She was one of the better parts of that movie. I didn't like the Joker, but I liked Harley Quinn.
Right.
So.
You mean the guy masquerading as the Joker?
Yeah. That's right. So I really like Harley Quinn. I do feel like she's a little overrated in my opinion, but I do really like the core of the character, kind of silly, funny, dark, and evil.
Right.
Just like the Joker. So when I like her character to be almost just like the Joker, except for she's more of a emotional, more of a personal kind of person. Actually cares about other people to some extent, which is why she's always chasing after the Joker, trying to make him happy.
Right.
And I really like that about Harley.
I prefer her original costume.
I like that too.
And are you familiar with the that she started out in the cartoon and migrated to the comics?
Although there was a Harley Quinn.
Yeah, there was something there.
That's super weird. I don't know much about it, but
yeah.
Anyways,
a couple different ones actually. So number 3, And I'm just gonna tell you, my top three, you can move them around if you want. I don't really care, but these are my top three, and any one of them could have been number one. It just depends on the day. So number three is Despero. He started out as this manipulator behind the scenes. Like in the first issue of the Justice League comic, he's playing chess against Barry Allen with the Justice League members as the chess pieces.
I think I've seen that
or
cover.
checker pieces. No, chess pieces. I'm like, geez, I
Chess
can't even
pieces.
think. Shut up. I'm sorry, you're helping me, and I told you to shut up. I'm a terrible person. Anyway, eventually he gets a power upgrade, and then he's like physically strong enough to take out the Justice League barehanded, but he still has his mental powers, like telepathy and junk like that. And I just love the look of that character. He's this giant purple alien dude with a fin on his head, razor sharp teeth, third eye right there.
He's pretty crazy.
He is just awesome looking, and he is always a threat when he shows up. Probably my main reason for liking him, though, he's sort of like a foil for the Martian Manhunter. He's like a villain that I think Martian Manhunter could fight forever, and I would love it. Even though he's powerful enough to take on the Justice League, there have been instances where Martian Manhunter has fought him. Like after Despero killed Gypsy's parents. If you're wondering about Gypsy, go watch the Justice League draft video. I give a little rundown on the character toward the end of my picking her for people who are like, who's that? Interesting character that she has that dynamic with Martian Manhunter, kind of like Jubilee and Shadowcat had with Wolverine.
I think you talked about her when we were getting to where she was supposed to fight the villain.
Yes. Because y'all were asking what are her powers and that sort of thing. But anyway, I just like Despero because he made the goofy Justice League serious for a minute, and it was really good.
I like Despero too. Another Green Lantern villain, but he can also cross over with the
That's
Justice
because of
League.
the Justice League cartoon show. They made him more of a Green Lantern villain in that episode.
Well, he's crossover with Hawkman.
Yes.
With Adam Strange.
Booster Gold too, I think.
Booster Gold. The Justice League. He can do any of the space villains, or heroes, which I think is great. And so the first time I really saw him, other than the Justice League cartoon, was the Death of Hawkman series.
Oh, neat.
6-issue series.
I have to go back and look at
He's
that.
a villain in that. It's a really good 6-issue series. But even though I was like, they're killing Hawkman again. All right, so my number 3, I was doing 2, 3, is Deathstroke. I love Deathstroke.
Hey, didn't I say we were going to talk about this again?
So his one of his first appearances was the same appearance that Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. So you gotta admit he probably had something to do with Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing.
Oh, he totally did.
And
because Dick Grayson had quit being Robin, and Deathstroke had found out who he was because of Terra, and so Dick Grayson assumed the Nightwing role just so that he could go and rescue the Titans. So.
And you also see Jericho in that, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was Jericho's first appearance.
So that's pretty exciting. But Deathstroke has always been a villain of the Titans and the Teen Titans, and he always. What I like about him is he's not necessarily evil. He's kind of a relatable character.
Right, he's
in a
very
lot of ways.
principled.
And he's honorable, which I really like about villains. Where he has a moral code that he's not willing to cross, but at the same time, like for the right amount of money, he'll do anything.
Right.
But he's gonna do it in his way, which he thinks is honorable for some reason. So even if it's not what I think is a good moral code, I like that he has one that he tries to be consistent with.
You'll appreciate Marv Wolfman's take on the character as you read through the Titans, and he becomes more of a prominent character. I think later writers have skewed from that characterization, which does sort of like help you relate to him in a better way. But
I love that he's called Deathstroke the Terminator.
Yeah. So flash fact.
Flash fact.
James Cameron and the folks for the Terminator had to pay DC Comics money to use the Terminator because he had it first.
That's right. Thank you, Marv Wolfman.
That's right. We love you, Marv
And
Wolfman.
Perez.
And George Perez. Oh my goodness.
I
wish I had money to buy your commissions because I would make you draw me some Titans murals on my house or something. Because
I like the look of Deathstroke. So
yes.
he's got the orange on half and black on half. I really enjoyed Deathstroke in the Arrow show. It was one of the redeeming qualities of it. I love like the original broadsword that he had.
Yes.
I wish he still carried it. Now they've changed it to like katanas or like real thin military swords, but I love the broadsword. Like he just wielded this giant sword and would just like destroy anybody. It kind of felt more like he was a medieval warrior. Yeah. It was really awesome. But he's a master of like all weaponry, so he can pick up anything and fight with it. He's like you said, he's got enhanced strength, enhanced thinking, enhanced everything, and so even though he's somewhat powerless because he's not overly powerful, he's enough that he could take out just about anybody.
Yeah.
And he's very, very smart. So he could also take out some of the more powerful DC heroes, which is cool. And
right, he single-handedly took out the Justice League in one comic.
So the only problem I have with him is, and this isn't really his fault, is that he's a contract killer, but he really never kills anybody.
Mostly. So you mean a contract assassin?
See,
but he never assassinates anyone.
This is a side note. If it turns out and he's the main villain that killed everybody in Heroes in Crisis, that would be epic because he could take out Wally West.
That's true.
He could take out Arsenal, and he would take the entire people in there by himself. That would be an epic twist.
I would actually not be as mad about that.
That would be
anymore.
An epic twist if they made this.
I mean, I'd still be mad Wally's dead, but
I would too. They could always bring him back.
But like that would actually make sense.
That would be a amazing twist at the end. And then you would Deathstroke being the killer.
And you'd really turn a corner with his character where he's probably not coming back.
Yeah. You have, Booster Gold can't kill him. Harley Quinn can't kill him all.
Right.
But Deathstroke can. Deathstroke can. So, anyways, because he's almost killed plenty of people.
Right.
Almost. Anyways, so that I didn't expect to be talking about that, but I really like Deathstroke. I love how powerful he is. He's very old school. Like everybody else is very hot and young, and especially the Titans that he's fighting.
Right.
They're sure of themselves, and he's just like, kids, I've been there before. Like, you're not gonna beat me. You don't want to fight me.
And ultimately, he didn't want to fight them. He only took up the contract because he felt responsible for his son,
right?
Who wanted to be just like him.
Because he's very honorable.
Yeah. So.
I also love the Jericho relationship with him.
Yes.
And, even though I'm still young to that relationship, I've only read a few issues. But if you haven't read the Judas Contract, it is excellent.
Yes, it is the height of amazing comics.
It is excellent.
It is the
first
gold
appearance
standard.
of Nightwing, first appearance of Jericho, and the first appearance of Deathstroke.
And the death of a couple of major characters.
So, excellent. You have Terra, who started a little bit earlier, and Deathstroke really started earlier, too.
Spoiler alert. I'm just kidding.
So you got 4 awesome characters that started in the first few issues of the New Teen Titans. Excellent.
Yeah, so Terra actually had only been around for about a year and a half by the time of the Judas Contract. Deathstroke's first appearance was New Teen Titans #2, which I have a nice copy of.
So, anyways, that's my number 3.
Numero 2 is my idea of Wally West's sort of main bad guy, his Lex Luthor, if you will, his Joker to the Batman situation, but it's Abracadabra. Mark Waid, I love your Abracadabra. I wish that comic character could continue. So many of it's like every time I chose to check in on your Flash character before I was like, I'm hooked and I'm just gonna buy them all. it was Abracadabra, man. He was there every stinking time, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm buying. Let me have them all.
Give me all your money.
There was the courtroom issues in the late 80s.
Take my money.
That's right.
That's the main. Take my money.
The Race Against Time stuff after Wally bounced around the time stream, and then right after Chain Lightning with the Dark Flash stuff. It was just so good. Like every time I checked in, when I wasn't able to afford comics on a regular basis, it was always Abracadabra, and so he's always going to be one of my favorite villains for DC Comics, just because I love the way he screws around with Wally. And from what I understand, he was also pretty prominent in the most recent Titans run, right?
New 52.
Early on.
He was
not New 52, the Rebirth.
Rebirth. That's what I meant.
Okay.
He was a
big
part in the explanation of why Wally West was disappeared in.
I look forward to reading
52.
those.
Right after the ones I gave you.
Yeah, I figured I'd pick up the story after. So he's my fave. I just love the future magician stuff that they got going on, and there's a sense in which he's a joke, but he's a serious joke, and it's just so weird.
He doesn't think he's funny, but he is.
Oh no, I just meant like as far as being a villain goes, there's like some people look at him and they're like he's nothing,
right.
Like he's not even worthy of our time. But then there are moments where he makes the world forget that certain people are there, and
right.
It's just really good. I love the character. So.
All right, so my number 2 is Mark Hamill Joker.
Woo!
I like anytime. I like the Joker. The only reason he really makes it this far is because of Batman the Animated Series and the Justice League cartoon.
Oh, those episodes where he's got the Royal Flush Gang doing his bidding in Vegas. That's some of the best episodes of that show.
I love it. And he's narrating the whole time, just making a fool of himself, which is exactly what the Joker should be doing. He's the Lex Luthor for Batman.
Right.
He's hilarious. And that's why I love him. Because he's silly, he's goofy, but he can also be super dark and crazy. And the only problem that I have with current Joker is that he's not funny. Half the time he looks serious, he's mad and angry. I'm just like...
He's not calling Lex Luthor Lexi?
Oh, man. I love the Joker that's funny.
If anything, he'd never call him Luthor.
Right. Lexi makes more sense. Oh, Lexi.
Or Lex. Where he extends the EX at the end, so it's like this Lex, because that's funny.
Oh, man. And Mark Hamill does the perfect Joker.
Yes.
And just the inflations in the voice, they're kind of crazy and silly. And it just, all his facial expressions. If you saw my recent video about Doomsday Clock number 7, that's a great Joker. That's an excellent Joker. He's making all these weird, crazy,
creepy faces,
expressions. Such ties back to the old TV show that I really feel like made the Joker, that cartoon.
Question for you: have you watched Batman Beyond: The Return of the Joker?
Probably. If
you haven't, I suggest you go watch it. It is one of the creepiest takes on the Mark Hamill Joker, and it is a thing of beauty. Try to find the unrated one.
That's not the one with Tim Drake becoming the Joker, is
it? Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I'm aware.
If you guys hadn't watched that, just go watch it. It's pretty flippin' amazing.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
You should go and watch it. It's so good.
I was reading the Justice League issue 7 also, I think. I sort of did a review on that Doomsday Clock one.
Right.
And I feel like it's sad that the Batman Joker is funnier than the regular Joker. I'm just like, they should both be equally funny. Anyway, so I like the Joker that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
The way I put it is, and if you're new here, the way I put it is, he's so funny that when he's doing really awful, evil things, even though it puts like a pit in my stomach, that
Creepy
awful
it is,
it is
yeah.
and creepy, it's making me laugh. And the fact that I'm laughing at such an evil act or such a creepy evil act is what makes the Joker the Joker. Because you're laughing and you're just like, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but this is so funny. That's the Joker.
The only saving grace about that is it's comic books and it's not real life.
Right.
Because it wouldn't be funny in real life.
It wouldn't be funny in real life. So, anyways, that's my number 2.
I guess we're at number 1, huh?
You got any honorable mentions?
Not that I can think of. This list was hard enough as it was.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Hold on.
The only one I would add is Brother Blood.
There's another team.
I don't think he's really that great, but I like him because he shows up in the Titans and he really gives them a tough time all the time.
I feel like there was another team that I could have thought of, but
I like all the ones on your list too.
Sweet. Well, that's why we did this, right? Number 1 for me would be Vandal Savage.
I like
and if
Vandal
you don't know
Savage.
who Vandal Savage is, I'm sorry for DC Comics not making him more prominent. He's like this immortal caveman. And he's really not immortal. He makes himself immortal in the creepiest of ways. He harvests organs of people that are like genetically descendants of his to keep his own life going. He has indulged in drinking blood and things of that nature to keep going. So he's super creepy.
I feel like they've taken some of that out.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Like they just, I think on the cartoon show, they just made him immortal as a result of the meteor that crashed when he was a caveman. But it gave him intellect. And so he's like this super strategist who has fought the Titans in Devin Grayson's, in my humble but correct opinion, excellent run. He was the main villain for the first year or so. He created an anti-Titans group called Tartarus, and it was just really good. Like he was I don't know. He was trying to tempt Cyborg away from the Titans, and it's just really good. I loved him in the Justice League Task Force, where he was sort of pitted against John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, and testing the younger heroes. He was trying to tempt the Ray into his services. But if you really want some good stuff, go read the first few issues of the 80s Wally West Flash run. In the first issue, Flash is working for a courier service to deliver a heart across the country in a snowstorm.
That's a good story.
Have you read that?
No, I watched the episode of Young Justice.
Oh, right. I forgot they did that. Yeah. So at the end of it, though, in the comic book, Vandal Savage is in Wally's apartment holding a human heart in his hand. Or, no, he leaves a human heart laying on his coffee table or something. But he's right there with him, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's creepy. How did you get in here, you know? And they have a cool fight, and Wally is clearly outmatched, and yet somehow manages to pull a win out of his posterior. And so like Vandal Savage, he's the main villain in Justice League Year One, and that's great. He regularly fights against the Justice Society.
He's one of the good things about Legends of Tomorrow, the first series season.
He was really cool.
He wasn't the best in that, but he was good.
He was really cool on the Justice League cartoon.
I love that. I love that.
The 3-issue one that involved World War II, I guess. World War I, something like that. I forget.
What I like about him is that he's everywhere.
Yeah.
And the reason I like the meteor thing is because he can live longer.
Right.
The other is very creepy, which I think would go well with the new DC Black Label. They could use him in that, which would be perfect. But
right.
I like the meteor because one of my favorite times with him is when Superman flies thousands of years into the future, and he's still there. Like nobody else is on Earth, but
some creepy alien bugs.
Vandal is still there, and it's just like whoa. Like,
and he has this sort of come to himself moment where he's like, yeah, I helped cause this, and I'm not cool with that, and I want some redemption. So
yeah, it's really
he helps Superman.
Really great. Because I feel like with Vandal, like I was reading in Justice League or JLA Year One, he's there and he's talking to these other villains, and they've got this giant plan, and he's like, yeah, I've got all the time in the world. I'm gonna wait.
Right.
I'll wait it out, and we'll see. And I love that about him because the thing with immortal people is like they have all the time that they need, and they don't have to do anything right away because he's got time. He's gonna see this civilization fall, and he'll be there for the next one. So
and he's done that time after time after time. So it's nothing new for him.
He's a great Hawkman villain.
Yeah.
He's a great Booster Gold villain. Great Superman villain. Great Justice League. Great.
Titans.
What's his name? Rip Hunter.
Yeah.
So I love the time. Like I hate time travel, but I like the time travel that he has, and really, really awesome. So that's what I like about him.
Such a versatile character. And he's a great hand-to-hand combatant. He's literally watched these fighting forms develop, and he's mastered them because he's had time to do that.
Yeah.
So.
And yeah, I mean, he can always like, oh, I've got another 100 years I can master it.
Right.
I'll do it next century. So, all right. So my number one is the Riddler. I love the Riddler.
And by that, he does not mean Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
I hate that that Riddler. It was terrible. One of the problems with the DC movies for Batman is that everybody tries to be the Joker.
Well, see, here's the problem, though. He was trying to be the Riddler from the old 60s show, which was much more campy and skewed toward Joker-ish. Instead of being the more methodical Riddler,
well,
which is what I would have preferred.
I like the Riddler from the old campy Adam West.
Right.
I didn't mind that because it was very distinct from him and the Joker.
Right, but with Jim Carrey, he turned it all the way up.
Right.
It's like he didn't understand what Frank Gorshin was doing with the Riddler in the 60s show.
Right. And there's a lot of Jim Carrey that I do like, but I didn't like that for the Riddler.
Right.
And with DC, like with the current, like the more recent Lex Luthor, he was trying too hard to be the Joker.
Right.
Everybody tries too much to be the Joker. I'm like, these characters aren't the Joker.
Except the Jokers.
Except for the Jokers. And then they try to be somebody else. I'm like,
just be Mark Hamill.
Like if Jim Carrey had been the Joker, it would have been perfect.
Because right.
He was great. And if it had been the Joker, it would have been great. But
or even the Creeper.
Yeah.
You don't know who that is, but that's okay.
I know who that is. I don't know much about him, but I know who he is.
Okay. Because that would have been a great villain.
Would have been interesting. But anyways, what I love about the Riddler is he's brilliant, but he's got this a tick that makes him want everybody to know that he's brilliant.
Right.
And so he can't not leave all these clues. But the problem is there's only one person smart enough to figure out that he's done all the things, which is Batman. And so he does all these crazy things and nobody notices because he's so smart and so
it's
good.
Subtle.
It's so subtle. And so he ends up literally leaving these clues and riddles that only Batman can figure out. And it's beautiful. I really like that. He did a little bit with Green Arrow, but I actually haven't read those.
Those are really good too. Like I was like all excited that Riddler was going to be Green Arrow's main guy.
I feel like DC hasn't done anything with him because every time they try to do something with him, he ends up being the Joker.
Well, just think about it though. How hard is it to come up with riddles?
Yeah, that's.
I mean, so that's really the biggest flaw with the character is that the lazy writers are just like, we either come up with super simple riddles or we can't figure it out. There's one storyline where he fit in perfectly, and I thought that was the Hush storyline. He was in that, and was really good in that.
So I don't think he needs to have only riddles. Like, they're more riddles than just like word riddles.
Right.
So if anything, like if he had this super complicated story where he had killed somebody or done something super evil, and Batman was left in his trails trying to figure out what he's doing or has done, even if there were no like riddles, if there were just clues for Batman to find, but he was throwing out riddles about random stuff, I mean, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
The riddles don't have to be for the case.
Right.
I mean,
they could be distractions.
Right. So there's plenty of ways to do the Riddler well, and I was hopeful for this for the Dark Knight series, because I was like, okay, maybe we actually get a real good Riddler.
Oh, the gang war with the jokes and riddles or something?
No, I'm talking about Batman Begins.
Oh, the movie.
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, right. So they were talking about having Leonardo DiCaprio, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Let's do that. He's a great actor, and
I'd love to see a really good Riddler.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about time.
Right.
We've got Roz. We've got
Joker.
The Joker. We've got Bane.
Penguin.
He wasn't a bad Bane, I didn't think. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. He was much better than the old one.
This is true.
So so the other one had his size and strength. This one had his intelligence. We just need one where it brings it together.
Yeah.
But I think the Riddler is one of the biggest potential that is underused these days, because he's funny like the Joker, but in his own way. If anything, I really loved Nigma on Gotham. And I haven't really watched the whole series, but I watched the first season or two, and it was really interesting to see him become the Riddler. And so that was really
I always
cool.
appreciated him on the old Batman cartoon show.
Yeah.
I loved John Glover. He was the actor who did the voice. He was Lionel Luthor on Smallville. And I think he could have done an excellent job as the character on the screen, because he was pretty tall and imposing or whatever.
So I wish they would do more with him. I was going to say something, but
sorry,
that's all right. So that's our top 10. Let us know what you think.
How did we go longer with the villains than we did the heroes?
I don't know. We have a tendency to talk long.
That's true.
So let us know what you think. Who are your favorite villains from DC? And
let us know if we're wrong, and then we'll tell you how right we really are.
So
we love to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
So
leave us a comment, leave us a like.
Like us on Facebook.
Yeah, we now have a Facebook if you've made it this far. Also, superhero chat, so you can talk to us directly, which is great.
Leave us messages, we'll reply.
That's right. Rather than just commenting on here, you can do that too. Still, so let us know, and we will catch you next time. Peace.